What's up YouTube? Just wanted to make a quick video here on tips on how my aquascape was done. I started out with the dry rock. I used two types of rock. I went with the Reef Saver rock and the Tonga Plate rock. I ordered approximately about 70 pounds of the Reef Saver rock and 50 pounds of the Tonga Plate. I went with the Reef Saver rock because I like how it interlocks nicely with each other. You can barely see the seams. It just looks like it's one big piece of rock. Reef Saver rock is also one of the cleanest rock you can buy. There's no dead material on it, and as you can see, it's really porous. On the other hand, the Tonga Plate does come with a lot of dead material on it. It brings a lot of shells, dry worms, dry sponges. You want to make sure you clean that as much as possible. I went with the Tonga Plate because, as you can see, it provides me with a lot of surface area. This rock is perfect for SPS. I want to make this an SPS dominant tank, so that's why I went with the Tonga Plate. Now, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to start your aquascape. I started mine off with a bare bottom, and the reason for that is because I cured and cycled my rock inside the tank. You probably just might want to be a little bit more careful when you're aquascaping without any substrate, not to break the glass. Now, the way you want to pretty much start off, you want to start off with a structure where you're going to build off of. In my case, my structure consists of 6 big pieces. I chose the 6 biggest pieces I've had of the Reef Saver rock. You can see here I started out with this piece here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this piece right here, 6. What you want to make sure is that your structural base rock that you're going to build off of is stable. That is not, it doesn't wiggle around. You want to kind of play around with the rock until you find a nice smooth surface where the rock is stable. Now, if you want to place your rock a certain way, but it's not stable, something you can probably use is you can use a hacksaw, a chisel, or in my case I use the flathead screwdriver and a hammer to chisel out. You can kind of flatten out your surface, smooth it out until you know it's nice and smooth and stable, where you place your rock is not wiggling. Now, the way I started placing my structural rock was pretty much I started off from the front, went back, came back up to the front, back to the front, kind of to give it that depth look, the 3D look, where it's just not, you're not placing just piling rocks straight across, just making a wall straight across. Makes it look nicer. It gives it that 3D look to the tank. Now, once you have your structural base settled and placed the way you want it, you're going to start building off of that. At that point, what I did was I started working with the smaller pieces of the Reef Saver rock, and I started interconnecting the structural pieces together. You can see there, then over here. Connected that back piece with this front piece with this little piece there, creating a nice little passage through there. One of the things you might want to do too is give your rock some shape to make it look nicer, so it doesn't look just like one big piece of rock there. For example, here and this one right here, I kind of chiseled out the middle to give it that little nice cave effect there. Same here, chiseled out some of the rock there, gave it that little nice cave there too. So you just kind of want to play around with the rock, break some pieces, so you give it a nice shape to it, a nice look. Now, at this point, this is where you probably want to start using some epoxy. For example, this piece right here, even though this piece is nice and steady, it's not going to go anywhere, I still went ahead and I put a little bit of epoxy there and on the other side where the rocks meet. And what that does is just pretty much whenever you're in there cleaning, you happen to bump the rock, it doesn't fall over. Thing is just a way of precaution. So anywhere where the rock's matte, I just put a little bit of epoxy there and there, and just to keep the rocks stable and from falling over when you bump them. The epoxies I used, you can use this JB Well or this Fix-It stick. I prefer using this one. Reason why is because this one only takes about 3 minutes for it to harden. The JB Well, on the other hand, takes about 25 minutes. So it doesn't help you out when you're working with heavy pieces that you can't let go of because they'll fall over. And the JB Well, you're pretty much gonna have to stay there 25 minutes holding it until it hardens. With the Fix-It stick, is 3 minutes. You just hold it down, it hardens, and you're done. Another good thing about the Fix-It stick is that, as you can see here, you can't hardly tell. It's kind of more of the color of the rock. The JB Well, it's more on the white side. It's a white epoxy. You can see the difference there. Doesn't really matter because, as you know, with time, coralline algae will take over and it'll cover everything up. So now, once I was done playing around with the Reef Saver rock, I started placing down the Tonga Plate. As you can see, this plate right here, I epoxied it to this piece of Reef Saver rock. Same thing with the Tonga Plate. You might want to break a couple of pieces, give it a nice shape to it, different kinds of shapes. You can see right here, I came out with this little like kind of butterfly effect look there, created a nice overhang. Same thing with the piece up here, gave it that triangular shape. This little island here, I broke a big piece of tongue into two little smaller pieces and pretty much epoxied it here on the top and one towards the middle, creating that little nice cliff island there. Used a piece here, I pretty much connected these two, creating that bridge effect, the nice passage. So you kind of want to play around with it. As you can see, I also created different levels. So that way I can put different types of coral depending on the water flow and lighting they need. Now, once I was done with the epoxying of the Tonga Plate to the Reef Saver rock, then I started working around with the acrylic rod. I used this 1/2-inch acrylic rod. This rod, the only other type of tool I used was pretty much a Dremel tool to cut it. You can either use a drill to drill a hole into the rock and then you just stick the rod in with a little bit of epoxy. That method just saves you epoxy, or you can just place your rod where you want it and just epoxy it straight to the rock. Kind of like that right there, as you can see. I just epoxied it straight to the rock, and then the rod that came down, boom, was epoxied behind this Reef Saver rock. Now you can just leave the rod showing if you want. In my case, just for aesthetics reasons, I went ahead and put a little piece of rock there to cover up the rod. But just kind of use your imagination. Working around with the rod is pretty cool because, as you can see, it gives it that kind of look like where the rock is just floating there in the air. Over here also, I just covered up this little piece of rod there. And then these pieces, I didn't use the rod was pretty close to the rock, so I didn't have to cover it up. So it just looks like it's just floating there. As you can see. Now you want to keep in mind when you're aquascaping to try to do it with an open space concept. As you can see, there's plenty of room still for the fish to swim around. The rocks, they're barely touching each other. They're not on, like they're not on top of each other. As you can see, they're just pretty much just touching at the corners. So there's good water movement through all the rock work to prevent any detritus from building up. Another thing, make sure your rock is not touching none of your glass. There's still plenty of room from the front to back here for you to put your hands in there and clean. On the sides, plenty of room there. As you can see here, plenty of room on the back. Still go through the back to clean the back. If you want to still, go back there to siphon sand. Let's see, as you can see back here, still plenty of room. So none of the rock work is touching the glass. Just want to keep that in mind. Apologize for the mess. These fish make a mess with this nori when I put it on there. They just start picking at it. It starts going everywhere. But yeah, it's pretty much I'm crazy to start filling this rock up with coral. See how it's gonna start looking. Cleaner shrimp, it's around there somewhere. He loves this rock. You can just hang upside down on it. That's his favorite rock right here in the middle. But yeah guys, let me know what you think. Hopefully I gave you some tips for you to do your work, your aquascape. And I'll keep posting more videos on my progress. Thank you for watching.